Hello, welcome to how to get one simple way to get more traffic to your store. Uh, to get started, my name is Daquan Hall. I'm a marketing consultant. I've been doing this for over 15 years, worked with hundreds of small businesses, but that's just the career highlight stuff. What I don't want this to be is another one of those videos where or trainings where somebody goes over all of their results that they've had over the years and gives you a bunch of testimonials and then offers you some kind of program that costs you $1,997, but if you move today they'll give you a discount and it's only $997, and it's packed full of $5,000 worth of value that you get if you move and act only today. That's not what this is going to be about. It really is about delivering value to you guys. And I do this because I care. I do this because I feel like small business is really the backbone of communities. I'm a strong supporter of the idea of local living economies because small businesses hire the people who live in who live in different neighborhoods, who live in the community. Those community members go out and buy houses, they pay taxes, those taxes go back to the community. The business pays taxes that pays for the school and upgrades the school to get the kids better facilities, so on and so forth. And it really builds up these local neighborhoods and communities in a much bigger way than some other methods that we have out there. So that's what this is really about. And yeah, let's get started. So who is this really for? It's made mostly for people who have small retail stores, brick and mortar stores, but it also works if you have a e-commerce store or a direct-to-consumer brand. Um, if you're seeing your store traffic start to stagnate, this is going to be great for you. Um, if you want to reduce your overall marketing expenses, but you still need to continue to grow revenue, those two normally grow hand in hand. But if you want to try to reduce your market, there are ways to do it. I'm going to share that with you here. If that's something you're interested in, this will be great for you. And if you're just interested in improving your company, this is also going to be something that's really great for you. So a few quick facts before we get started, right? Quick fact number one, 53% of all store traffic today starts online. Okay, that's a quote from a report from Ground Effects, I think is the name of the company. 15%. Quick fact number two, 15% of your SEO ranking comes from Google My Business reviews today. So Google has started to weight your reviews online more heavily, and that trend is probably going to continue to grow into the future, where you'll find that your online rankings actually matter more because it's social proof. People are saying, hey, this place is good, or hey, this place is bad. So Google's using that to say who should move up and down. So if you have two companies that are virtually the same, who have the same kind of page rank, domain rank, page authority and domain authority, I'm sorry, um, and you're really having a hard time ranking over your competitors for specific keywords, this can be a huge differentiator for your business and a huge competitive advantage and help you move up those rankings, which will then help people find you faster and get you more of that 53% of the people who are starting their customer journeys online. 93% of customers use online reviews to make purchase decisions. That's quick fact number three. So that means that almost 100%, 9 out of 10 of your customers are going to look to online reviews before they actually make a purchase. Um, that's from PwC. So that's a huge change in the way that customer journeys happen now, the way that people buy things. Um, and if you combine that with the 53% of people who are actually who are actually starting their customer journeys online, what you'll find is that roughly about 49% of your customers are going to come through online channels. Okay. Um, and again, that's a trend that we're going to just continue to see online as more and more people shop online before they actually purchase a product. So it's getting more important for you to be in these online spaces, which I know you know, but we're going to talk about a very specific technique today that will help you improve your business. And some of you might have heard of it. You know, it's not a big secret. And quick fact number 4. Okay, responding to customer reviews has the potential to reduce your customer churn by 15%. So if you don't know what customer churn is, that's the amount of customers that are leaving your business every month. So just by responding to customer reviews, you have the potential to reduce that churn rate by 15%. So for every 10 customers that leaves, you can change it to it'll be 9, and so on and so forth. If that makes sense. Okay? So what does all that really mean in terms of your bottom line and your business? Well, first impressions these days are everything, right? So your brand obviously is important because your brand is what gets the person in the door, right? And your brand, you have to think about it as being more than your logo. You have to think about it as being the total story, the character, that the role that your company plays in your customers' lives. Your customer is the main character, and your company's role is the helper character to the hero, and helping them get whatever it is their goal is. Now, your brand will inspire them to take the journey, right? Inspire them to look for more information about the company, inspire them to take whatever the next step may be. If it's fill out a form, to schedule a call, if it's, go into your store, if it's, purchasing some sort of initial offer or downloading a coupon, anything like that. All of that comes from them being inspired by your brand enough to say, hey, this is probably somebody who can help me solve my problem or help me get whatever I'm looking for. And therefore, let me go through a few steps to get them to allow me to help to move into the way that they will be able to help me. Right. And reviews help you solidify that idea in their head that you are the company that can help. Okay, we're going to talk more about the reviews part mostly today, and then some psychology behind that as well. Okay, and before we do that, let's talk about this model here on the left. This is the fog behavior model, right? The fog behavior model says that behavior occurs when motivation, ability, and a trigger occur at the same time. So if you look at the model, you'll see that there's a sloping line that's called the action line, right? In order for the behavior to occur, right, we have to get the person, the either their motivation or their ability they have to meet at above the action line. So what does that mean in non-nerd social science nerd language? That basically means that if you want somebody to do something, they have to be motivated enough and have the ability to do it, and then they have to be triggered to do it. They have to be told to do it, right? Here's the thing though, right? We can do a lot of things with this. We can always give somebody a trigger because we can always ask them to buy our product. We can always ask them to come to our store. We can always ask them to go to our website, right? That's easy. We can do it all day, right? Ability, not as easy, but we can make things easier for people to do, right? By thereby increasing their ability to do it. However, motivation is not something that we can truly impart because we can't impart the problem, so to speak. And if we did want to, it would cost so much money and so much time that it might not be worth it, right? However, the motivation must always be there. It's intrinsic to the customer themselves. And as long as they have that motivation, then we can reduce the difficulty in achieving the task and achieving the behavior and give them the trigger and make that action occur, make that behavior that we're looking for, which in most cases is going to be a buying behavior, then we can make that occur, right? And we can actually break this down and analyze it, put some numbers behind it. It's really cool once you look at it. But again, I'm a social science nerd. So. Okay, so why is all of this important? Why is this something that you want to know, right? Well, when you think about it, right, your customer is inspired to take the journey, right? The reviews give them the confidence to continue on, that they've made the right decision, right? Because other people are saying that. So The importance of making sure that the task is easy enough to complete, and that you have the reviews, and that you have the brand, and that you're doing everything that you need to do, is because you're only as good as your last at bat, right? Here's what I mean by that. Okay. The series position effect essentially says, right, that we tend to form and shade our interactions with a brand based on our first and last interactions with that brand. Specifically, what we're talking about here is the recency effect. The recency effect is a part of the series position effect. The recency effect says that we weight more heavily our last experience with a brand than we do our middle experiences. If you look over here, it says the primacy effect. The primacy effect tells us that we tend to look at our first experience with a brand and hold on to that and say, and we remember that more clearly than we remember any other experience besides the last experience that we have with that brand. So what that means is that our first experience and our last experience with the brand is what coats our entire view of the company and the brand itself. Right? We forget everything else that happens in the middle. We have a tendency to just forget those and remember those two events. So that's why I said you're only as good as your last at bat. To add to the primacy effect occurs also through other people. So when customers refer you, when people read those online reviews, when people hear about your brand through media or anything else, it forms that primary understanding of what your brand is, and that paints the rest of those interactions. So let's say, for example, that your customer hears about a good thing with your brand from one of your previous customers, right? And then they go in and they don't have a great experience. Well, because of the primacy effect, they will have a more favorable view of that experience. They'll say, "Hey, they probably just had a bad day," right? However, if one of your previous customers said to the new customer that this place is terrible, they suck, when they go in and have a bad day, you just confirm the bias that was already formed. If you go in and have a great day, they're just going to go ahead and say, hey, they probably just had a good day. This place really sucks, regardless of how well you perform. So this is all getting to the point of how powerful online reviews can really be for your business. Right? Next up, we're going to talk about the anchoring effect. So the anchoring effect says that we tend to rely too heavily on our initial information about new stimuli, right? Or new phenomena when we make a decision. So again, it goes back to this whole idea that if I had a bad experience with the brand, my first primary experience with the brand, be it through referral, be it through online review, be it through my own personal experience that I've had with the company, then I'm going to hold on to that information and weight it way more heavily and paint the rest of my experience with that company in the same way. It doesn't matter what the company does afterwards. I'm still going to always feel like, hey, this company sucks, or they're not great, or they failed, you know, and they could have had stellar performances after that, but I will always hold on to that. And that's just, this is all basic cognitive psychology. So the reason for all of this, the reason that your online reviews has become so important, the reason that you know referrals from other customers have become so important is that social trust in our society has deteriorated significantly. It's almost completely gone, right? And has been completely replaced by social proof. Now, this is not to say that social proof didn't exist before. Social proof has always existed, right? So if you pull up to two restaurants, you don't know anything about either one, and you're hungry, you're probably going to go to the one with more people, right? Because more people probably means it's better food, right? That's just a human, that's how we think about things. But social proof has become even more important throughout in the last few years because of the number of competitors, the number of vendors who have entered the market, the number of choices customers have to make. So even when our friends tell us something is good, now we look at it and say, well, maybe it was just good for you. I can find something else that's good for me, right? So social proof. So we people are now using those online reviews at such a high rate as a means to sort through the noise of all the different things that are being offered. If you think about it, your competitors are on YouTube, your competitors are on Instagram, they're on Facebook, and they're opening up every day and closing every day, right? So in order for you to stand out in this big sea of competition, you have to be there and doing the things that you need to do in order to get ahead. Okay, so with this newfound information, or maybe not so new for you, um, how do you manage your reviews and bring in more traffic and sales? Well, step one, you have to start responding to all reviews, not just the bad ones. So I'm sure that you've been online and you saw a company, you looked at their reviews, and when you look at their reviews, you see that the owner of the company or someone else within the company is responding to the bad reviews. That's great, especially if you're responding positively, right? You're trying to respond and, mitigate the situation because that shows the next customer that this company does care and that they are good people behind the company and they are actually trying to make sure that their customers are taken care of. So that's one. But the other thing is that Google is actually checking to see if you respond to all the reviews. So it's important to respond to as many as you can. Maybe not all, but as many as you can. Um, and the reason why is because that's where the actual ranking factor comes in. Responding to the bad ones does help, but responding to all of them is the best thing you can do. Okay? Step two, what I would say is that you need to implement a post-purchase review process. You need to be asking your customers, the ones that had a good experience especially, to go ahead and give you a review. The reason why is because the better the review, the better your ranking, obviously, right? So if you have a ranking that's, at a 3, and, what you notice is that mostly people who have had bad experiences are the ones who are responding. And it comes back to a little psychology, right? High valence emotions, right? Um, Melancholy is not a high valence emotion, right? Bewilderment, um, that kind of feeling of that minimal satisfaction is not a high valence emotion. Anger is a high valence emotion. If you want to know what a high valence emotion is, a high valence emotion is any type of emotion that raises your heart rate slightly, and those emotions are linked to people taking action. So, whereas you might have given someone, exactly what they paid for and they were happy about it. But unfortunately, that bit of happy isn't going to give them a high valence emotion. They're just happy, right? You have to the positive high valence emotion is joy. So the person is experiencing utter joy at whatever you did, and that's a high valence emotion that will cause them to take action. If they feel like refreshed that something exists, I have a person that I work with, and in one of his reviews, the client said that they were just happy this existed. They didn't know it existed, and that the staff there was so knowledgeable and they were able to help so much. That created so much joy for that person. That's why they responded. However, in another client I work with, when I started with him, he had 4 reviews, and those reviews were one was a family member, and the other one was a bad experience, and the last one I want to say was another, like the family member commented twice. So it's important for you to implement that post-purchase review process because you want your customers to have had a good time to also give you those reviews. Another thing to make sure of is that your reviews are of great quality. Customers actually start to take action at a 3.3 rating or higher. So if it's below a 3.3, they're gonna assume that the company is gonna give them a bad experience. If it's 3.3 or above, they'll be willing to give it a shot. Okay. Step three. This is the more difficult, more challenging part, but I think it's the most essential part, and it is completely optional, right? You should search for reviews for keywords and sentiments in order to improve your customer processes and buying experience. What does that mean? What you want to you the reviews are there. Why not use them to your advantage? Why not use them to make improvements to your business that will actually help you bring in even more customers, bring in more money, bring in more uh, quality reviews, right? And so on and so forth. Why not use this all to your advantage to really build up your business? Okay. And finally, what's some things that you can do? Well, after you've done all of that, if you still feel like you want help, or if you read this and you feel like, you know what, I think I'm gonna need some help, I would suggest booking a call with me. Just book a quick call, and we can talk. There's no obligation, there's no hassle, there's no harassment, and there's no pressure. If you feel like you hop on a call with me and you feel like you want to work with me, then great. If you hop on a call with me and at the end of it you feel like this is something you don't need, or you don't want to work with me, you feel like you can do it on your own, then that's great too. The reason I'm like that, the reason I feel that way, is because if I can do something for you, and if I can just tell you about something, and you can do it yourself, then it didn't present a lot of value to you in the first place. So I don't want to try to give you something and try to sell you something that didn't present a lot of value to you. Because at the end of it, you're going to be dissatisfied with me. You're not going to want to give me great reviews, and I need you to give me great reviews so that so that you can refer your next friend. Right? That's the way it works in consulting. So a little bit different. People don't usually review us online, um, but um, if I can help you, if you do see a lot of value in what I'm talking about, go ahead and schedule a call with me. And like I said, it's going to be no pressure, no backward sales pitch, no, none of that. It's just going to be a quick call. We talk more about it. You tell me your situation. I'll probably think about it a little bit and give you a call back, and then we'll move forward from there going forward. Um, so if that's something you're interested in, go ahead back to the page, and then you can schedule the call on my calendar, and then we'll talk soon. All right. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.